You're listening to The Black Woman in the Corner Office, the podcast for women who lead, influence, and carry a whole lot more than what shows up in their title. I'm your host, Dr. Ebony Stone, and each week we talk leadership, power, community, and what it really takes to rise without losing yourself. If this conversation resonates, go ahead and subscribe so you never miss an episode. Hello, and welcome to the Black Woman in the Corner Office. I'm your host, Dr. Ebony Stone, and as always, I have a phenomenal guest today. You're going to enjoy talking with her. I am joined today by Beth Baker Callen. Some of you may remember that she was one of the panelists on our premiere from season 2, but her story is so intriguing, and we didn't get deep into her story. So I asked her to join us so we could just talk about her. So that's what we're going to do today. Welcome, Beth.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ebony, for having me. Super excited to be a guest with you tonight.
Absolutely. So I mentioned this on the previous episode that Beth appeared on, that I've known Beth for probably about 30 years. So since I was born, that's what we're just going to say. And I am inspired by her journey. She is a faith-filled woman of, let me get my tongue untied. She is a faith-filled woman of God. She is an author. She is a therapist, and she works full-time. And she owns Pace and Associates. Like, she's got all the things going on. So I'm going to ask Beth to tell us a little bit more about what she does day to day, and then we're going to dig into her story. So, Beth, why don't you tell us a little bit about what you do?
Sure. So, wow, where do we start? Thank you again for having me. It's truly a privilege to be with you and your guests on this platform. So I am a clinical therapist by profession. I'm a social worker by profession. So have a background in social work. Truly have a passion for people and serving people in so many different capacities. And so obviously I can't do 1,000 things at one time. So I've narrowed them down to 2. I work full time for the federal government in a capacity serving homeless veterans, actually. And I've done that for the last, been with that institution for the last almost 24 years now. So that's been an interesting journey. Being able to use both my administrative skills with my clinical skills, working in that capacity. And so leading a team of people and being able to serve is just really, I guess, the heart of who I am. Obviously we have to get a couple of Abraham Lincolns, as we say, to rub together to pay our bills. So that keeps me going. And it affords me to do some amazing other things. And one of the other things that I have been so proud to launch is Pace and Associates Counseling Center, where I'm able to provide evidence-based psychotherapy to individuals, couples, married couples looking to marry, people who are struggling with grief and loss, people that struggle with anxiety, and so many other vices that ail people from being their optimal. So I really enjoy being able to do this work and being able to serve not just African Americans, but really to serve us a broad spectrum of people. And so I'm very fortunate to do that and work also. I'm an EAP affiliate, which is an employee assistance program. A lot of major companies have that. Even some of your smaller hubs have that. And so to be an affiliate with two major ones, it's truly been a blessing to be able to offer support to those people who struggle even in the workplace. Maybe work is not their issue, but home life is impeding upon that. So being able to offer those services to that referral source rather has truly been a blessing as well to me. So my days are full, but I feel like my days, I'm grateful. That's the word that just comes to me initially. I'm very grateful. There's not a day that I don't go to bed probably exhausted, but I do feel fulfilled.
Nice. So that is amazing. Thank you for the work that you do. As I said multiple times on this podcast, in keynotes, on panels, everywhere I can, I am an advocate for therapy. And so what I want to do, typically what I do is just ask you to start at the beginning of your career, walk us through your career journey. So I'm going to ask you to do that, but I also, if you can include many people believe, unfortunately, that you have to believe in therapy or you're a Christian. You can't combine. I think that is very unfortunate. So walk us through your journey, your career journey, and then once you do that, can you tell us your thoughts about people who believe that? I think you know how I feel.
That's a great. Sure. No, we can definitely tackle both things for sure. So initially starting off to answer your question as it relates to my career journey, wow, that probably goes back probably when I was a young child. Really, when we talk about career journey, I'd be remiss to not include, your life. It's not just when you quote entered into the professional arena, although we typically look at career as that we started there. But I want to go back a little bit further so it gives context. When I was a much younger person, a young child, probably in elementary school, probably 8, 9 years old, I remembered going. We lived in Lexington, Kentucky, and we would go back and forth to Louisville, Kentucky, which is about 70 miles up the road. To visit grandparents, and my dad had he was doing a television broadcast show live every week. And so in those days, in the early, I guess that would be the early 80s, there was a lot of hitchhiking, and it was just a common thing. This was before Uber and Lyft and all these other rideshare agencies came about. But I would see these hitchhikers, and I just never understood why we couldn't stop and put them in a car. I felt like we were always going the same way. We had room. I felt like we had space, even though we were a family of 6. I felt like we had a big enough vehicle, and it was just one of them, maybe with a little small duffel bag or a small suitcase. And I was always perplexed, Ebony, as a child. Why can't we pick him? It was usually men. It was weird. Like, why can't we pick him? Rarely did you see a woman, but why couldn't we pick them up? And I remember my mom and dad looking at each other in the car and saying, "Oh my goodness!" And they understood the why, obviously for safety reasons, but they didn't want to crush my passion. I could tell that they were very methodical in how they responded to me. And as I got a little bit older, I would ask those same questions, and it was just more, it was more apparent to me that it wasn't safe. We don't know those people. We don't know if they're going to harm us. But moving forward, as we go, when you talk about the journey into more of my career, going into undergraduate school, I was a resident assistant. We know it as an RA. And so being able to help young women at the time, I was always that friend who people confided in, still am. If you need to tell me something in confidence, you can trust to believe you're not going to hear it again in any setting, right? And so having that level of trust with people around me, I felt quite naturally just went into an area of human service to help people. That's really that didn't really blow my mind as such. I think what really blew my mind career-wise when I started out as a graduate student, went to Wayne State University in the city of Detroit. I had no desire to work with veterans at all. I wanted to work with children because my undergrad is actually in child development. So my heart always beats for the little people, and I always wanted to work in a hospital setting. That I knew as a young person growing up. And so long story short, there was no opportunities. The internships have been filled. And so I was really talking to my field instructor at the time. I was like, please get me into a hospital. He says, but all the metropolitan hospitals in the metro Detroit and Detroit area, they already got their interns. And I was like, wow, where else can I go? And he said, I'm going to tell you, the only place that's left that's a hospital is Veterans Hospital. And I was like, mortified. And you might say, why were you mortified? It wasn't that because you may say, well, I thought you wanted to be in the hospitals. I did. But as a child, my father is a pastor, and growing up, we would go visit him. And my brother and I, we were the oldest of our siblings. We would go visit sick and shut-in members of our church at hospitals and nursing homes. And I remembered going into a VA hospital and seeing, now that I know what it is as a veteran, it was an amputee. It frightened me.
Yes.
And I always had a fear of amputees. And so as a child, I correlated that into my adult life with, every person who is an amputee, I'm going to probably see them at the VA hospital, right? So that was why I did not want to work do an internship at the VA hospital. What sold me, I'll be honest, they were offering a stipend. I said, oh, broke graduate student stipend, that works. Sign me up.
Right.
Sign me up. And so here I am almost 24 years later, have built a career in that arena and have just had an amazing ride. It's just been a truly remarkable experience, some ups, some downs, more ups, obviously. But that's how I got off into my professional career with the federal government. Did a few other things prior to coming to work for the government, but I've done most of my career there, and then moved into, like I said, I've been counseling people since I was a younger child, and the opportunity came open for me in my own adversity and in my own struggles to launch Pace and Associates, and to do it on a more professional level, obviously at a profitable level, not only for myself, but for other people that I'm able to serve. And so it's been so I mix the two. So it's been a journey. I'm still on the journey. I'm still on that path. Really, the biggest thing for me is really balancing it all and staying mentally healthy myself.
Yes.
And emotionally sound and in tune. There are days when it gets more challenging than others, but this is what I'm called to do. And so it's not, it's a challenge, but the passion is there. So I operate out of that.
Yes.
Yeah. But I wanted to touch, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
I wanted to touch upon you ask a really profound question when you talk about why do people seem to, want to keep therapy and or counseling separate from their religious beliefs or their spirituality. And I think a lot of it is, of course, it's myths. A lot of stereotypes obviously round up in that, thinking that, well, if you are a believer, I'm a believer in Jesus Christ as a Christian, that should be enough to help you. That should be enough to save you. And of course, in and of itself, Jesus doesn't need us. He doesn't need anything to help us, but he has given us skill. He's given us resources. He's given us talent. And so we all, we make a living by doing something. And my something just happens to be therapy. And so if you're in need, he's gifted us, he's given us, again, resources, talent, people around us, professional people, whether we know them or not. That's almost like a person who's very critically ill, just saying, I'm just going to trust God. I'm just going to trust God. I'm just going to trust God. That's fine. You should trust him. You should trust that he's the ultimate healer, but you also need to make an appointment to see a physician or a provider.
Yes.
ASAP, right?
Yes.
If your foot is hurting, or if your kidneys are hurting, or you feel like you've got something going on internally, I would hope that you wouldn't ignore that, waiting for God to heal you. And again, it's not to slight God. He's ultimate. He's all things supreme, but he's given us wisdom. He's given us knowledge to utilize to say, hey, I've sought this out, ultimately knowing that he is the ultimate healer, right? That's almost like when a woman is trying to, get pregnant or is very infertile or what have you, only God can open up the womb of a woman. Yeah, you can go to fertility specialists and go through all these different exercises and things of that nature, and that's fine. Even the natural act of just sexual intimacy with another person, does not guarantee a baby, right?
Not at all.
Yeah. So when you really stop and think about how intricate that is, like, wow, every time a person has sex, they don't always have a baby. Right. So that lets you know there is another being, there is a higher being other than ourselves. And so oftentimes I think we pick and choose when we use God, and then we pick and choose how we use other things. I just highly encourage people to blend them, because even when I'm counseling with my patients, I'm not their savior, right? I can fix that. I can instruct you. I can make recommendations to you. But if your heart is broken, I can't mend a broken heart. If your mind is jaded, I can't re-regulate your mind. I can work with your psychiatrist to look at different, medications for you and different treatment programs. And we can look at, like I said, so many different evidence-based practices. But the core of that, way out of my hands.
Right. I chuckle because you said we don't, every time we participate in sexual intimacy, we don't have a baby. And I'm like, thank God. Because
right.
being a married woman, I would not want to have a baby every time.
That's what I'm saying.
Thing, right?
Yeah.
So listen, over 24 years,
Mm-hmm.
especially working for the federal government,
sure,
I am sure there have been some professional obstacles or maybe personal obstacles that affected the professional life. When you look back on those, are there any that you would like to share and kind of tell us how you got over those obstacles?
Yeah, for sure. I think one of the things that, and I know we're talking here today as women of color, African American women, which is amazing, beautiful, beautiful thing for sure. It's not so much the color that has been, I think, a barrier for me over the course of my career. Now, I'm not saying it hasn't raised its head. It certainly has in certain arenas. I think the bigger thing that I experienced, particularly earlier on in my career, was ageism.
Oh.
Yeah, I saw, I started my career actually in Cleveland. I started at the VA there, and so many people, and I really am not even exaggerating, but I literally felt like I was the youngest person in that building. Because remember, I'm fresh out of graduate school. This is, 24 plus years ago. So, minus what I am now. So I'm much younger. I'm looking younger than I look currently, obviously now, but it was the ageism, because one of the things about federal employees, a lot of times people stay. They get these jobs and they stay for a long period of time. And so when I was fortunate enough to get in that system, it was like that people received me as an intern. They just assumed that I was still an intern, even though I had filled that role and I was a full-time employee. And so even now, people still think, I'm in a different place in my career, different roles, of course, and responsibilities. They just think I'm a much younger person than I actually am. And I'm okay with that. I mean, I'm not knocking people that are older. We're all getting older. But I just think in terms of there's this notion that, well, you're so young, how are you able to do X, Y, and Z? How are you able to oversee this program or oversee this facility? Well, and I have to explain that even to my patients. They think that I'm a lot younger than what I actually am. So I typically lead by, if it comes up in a conversation, it's not something I always say, but it's not uncommon for me to say, hey, I'm a little bit older than what I look, particularly when I tell them how long I've been in this profession. They're like, wait, I thought you were about, I don't know. I've had people say things like, I thought you were in your late 20s or your early 30s. And I'm like, well, thank you, but let's add a few. Let's add a couple decades to that, right? And but I say that to say people who, youthfulness and young people, it can get a bad rap. It's a stereotype that you don't know what you're doing or you're not seasoned enough, right? And it's really interesting. Or I know when I was working years ago, this is before federal positions and other things came about, I was doing some in-home counseling, working with young mothers who had lost their children they were wards of the state because of some things that they had suffered from or what have you. And they would always ask me, do you have any children? Natural question, fair question. And I would always get so stumped because I didn't want to lie. And I remember talking to my supervisor about it. And she said, Beth, just tell the truth always. And I said, that's fine. But I felt like it was going to cause a distance, like they weren't going to be able to connect with me. She simply said, and I took that and I've held that true to this day. She says, no, tell them, no, I don't have any children, but I'm certainly skilled enough to help you in raising yours. Or to educate you to what's going on with your child, right? And so in certain areas where people ask you, well, particularly in a therapeutic situation, people want to know that you've experienced maybe some things that they are bringing to you. I don't always have to experience the same exact thing you're experiencing to be able to help you. Now, if we're able to align ourselves with some similarities, that's fine. There's depth to that, but it doesn't make me inadequate or inept because I don't have that same concern that you have, right? I don't know, fortunately, what it's like to lose a parent. I can't say that. I've lost grandparents, I've lost other family members, but I'm not going to sugarcoat that. But certainly I understand the impact of grief. I know that I know the impact of grief and loss. So being able to be wise enough to be able to recognize when people have their vices of you, even though that's not your vice. I am the age that I am. We can't change that, right? But so I've seen that over the course of my career is more ageism than racism.
A couple of things that you said that are so powerful that I think about. I used to carry a certain amount of, I think it was guilt that I carried that I didn't have, being born and raised in Detroit.
Okay.
I didn't have even though I don't come from a lot of money, I didn't have the traumatic stories that so many inner city youth have, right? I actually felt guilty, like, why me? Like, why don't I have these stories? And because I don't, then perhaps, I don't have, perhaps I can't be as helpful. So I think it's very powerful that you say, and you work through that, and I'm past that now, right?
Sure.
You don't have to have the exact same experience to be able to help someone. And it's so funny because me and my brother talk about it all the time. Like, by the time we realized that we really were poor, we were doing all right, Mom and Dad had worked through it. We didn't. There were just some things that were just normal to us that we didn't even realize were indicative of us being a low income family at the time. Like, everybody eats beans and franks, right? That's what we do. Like, we used to ask for it.
And you did put mustard and ketchup with it, right? You did add that. You did add those condiments, of course. Yep. So I get it. Yeah.
Everybody, I remember one. I had to be. Let's see. My brother was in kindergarten, so I was probably third grade.
Okay.
And he was in half day kindergarten. He went to afternoon kindergarten, and I would walk home to the babysitter. So clearly a different day and time.
Right.
I walked home by myself to pick him up, and we ate lunch. And Beth, I kid you not, every day for at least a semester, we had grilled cheese and tomato soup for lunch. That was just what you do. So anyway, I say that to say, thank you for sharing that. If you were to give advice to someone who is in your shoes, which, by the way, you look amazing.
Thank you.
So kudos to you for looking 25. I've known you 30 years, but
I'm not even going to take none of that credit. I'm going to give all glory to God, and my parents do the G's. I'm just a byproduct of them.
Yes, I love it. What advice would you give to someone who's like, listen, I know I'm skilled, but people look at me and they see a kid? Before we continue, if you've ever felt the pressure to perform, produce, and prove while carrying everything else, I wrote The Power of the Pause for you. It's a practical guide to leading with clarity instead of burnout, and it's available now, along with corner office apparel designed for women who mean business. Check the show notes for your link so you can get your copy or you can get your t-shirt. Oh, and if your organization is looking for a host, facilitator, or speaker who understands leadership and lived experience, you can book me directly at drebonystone.com. All right, let's get back to the conversation.
Yeah. That's a powerful question because, like I said, it happens. It has happened so often, and it continues to happen to me. One of the things I would advise that person, you are not new to your profession. You are not new to your knowledge base. You are not new to the wisdom that God has endowed you. And so one of the things I would really look at further is if you're in need, okay, whether you're 10 years old, 20 years old, 30 years old, if you're truly in need, I'm going to go to a person that I know can help me, yes, regardless of the age. right? Typically, we don't have privy to know how old people are in a professional setting. You don't typically know how old your doctor is. You don't typically know how old your dentist or your attorney. You may have an idea of what you think how old you think they are based on maybe when they graduated school or some of the similarities they may have. But my point is removing the age from the equation, look at it from the need. So when you're struggling with, wow, would a person accept me? Would they hire me? Could I build up a clientele because I'm the age I am, whether I'm fresh out of college, I'm out of high school? It's what is it that you're offering? Who needs what you have? And I think also too, it's really important. It's so important. I got to stress this, that you know your audience. Now, there's going to be certain times you don't know your audience. You're going to be speaking to hundreds of thousands of people. You have no idea who these people are, but at least you know who's tuning and you have an idea. Even in this setting, being a part of this podcast, we don't know who's going to tune in. And we hope tons and tons and thousands of people tune in and are blessed by it and are encouraged by it. But we do know that people who are looking for encouragement, we would hope to think that people are looking for support. They're going to tune in. They're not really interested in how old I or even you are. They're like, what nugget are they going to drop that I can cash in on? What insight are they going to give me? What reference are they going to refer me to that I can say, "Ooh, I needed that." Not, you know what? I wonder how old she was. Now that might come second or tertiary down the line, but it wouldn't be the initial. So stand bold in whoever that person is who is struggling with, quote, their age, thinking that people won't believe them or take them serious. But guess what? There will be people that won't, and they won't be for you. That's fine. That's fine. And then there will be people that will be for you, and regardless of your age, or they make comments like, "Wow, my so-and-so is really young, but they're the bomb.com."
Right. So it's funny when I was working with the self-publishing coach for my book. She said, listen, you have to land, and I think this is what I hear you saying, you have to land on who your avatar is. Who are you talking to? Yeah. Who is your audience? Who are you talking to? And talk to that person. And when you talk to that person, other people will listen as well. Yes. Versus trying to talk to everybody. And so I think that's what I hear you saying. Like, know your audience. Talk to your audience. And you will go from there.
Well, because the reality is we won't be relevant to everybody. Yeah. Like everything that's on television, you don't listen to everything. You just keep flicking through the channels, right? Or on the radio. Every station on satellite radio or just the traditional radio, you're not interested in it. So you get to the one, or you get to the station that you can really connect with. It's the same way with therapy. I'm not for everybody, and everybody is not for me. I understand that. It took me some time initially because you kind of take it personal, like, oh my goodness. But once you get a few, you're not who I thought you were, or this is not the style that I was looking for, ma'am, sir, I respect that. I'll be so kind to even refer you on.
Yes.
Right? Because it's just that important to me that you get the help that you need. Now, if you were caught up with my skin color or my age or my dialect, that's on you, because I'm comfortable with all of it. But I respect that, right? I totally respect that. And I still get that to this day. Oh, I thought you were so-and-so. I thought you were, people look at my website and they're like, oh, I'm really glad that you were African-American, because okay, that's fine. Because we want to be relevant to the audience that we have in front of us, obviously. But stand bold in your own wisdom, stand bold in your own knowledge, and that you're unique because God made you that way, regardless of your age.
Yes, absolutely, He did, and He made you for such a time as this.
Absolutely,
no matter what your age is. So that we've talked about your career and how you got to where you are. The ageism was probably the biggest obstacle, and you've learned to kind of overcome that. What made you decide to do two things, right? One of the things that we talked about was that you decided to be a part of an anthology, to become an author. I want to go down that path and figure out what made you do that, and what made you say, okay, I'm working for the federal government, but I want my own practice too.
Yeah. So since we're being honest, Dr. Ebony, I'm just going to come right out and tell you.
Okay.
Pain. Yeah, pain, adversity, heartbreak, and a sprinkle of depression.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was situational depression, all wrapped up in what birthed me to even be a part of an anthology. I was grateful for the opportunity because it gave me an outlet to not just to share my story, but to continue to use it as an avenue to really heal. And once I discovered that I was further along than I thought, I was able to write and to share and to open up. I went through a very painful divorce about 9 years ago that I never saw coming, right? I never saw that coming. But it came and it lifed and it lifed me.
Yeah.
And fortunately, I'm on the other side of that, like well on the other side of that.
I
But
love that new term. It lifed me.
it
Right.
did. It did.
Yeah.
But guess what? I won. I fought
Yeah.
back. But yeah, very, very graciously, the practice was literally birthed out of the depth of my pain. I had the practice for a number of years before I really did anything with it, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
It was like, yeah, I have this, I have the infrastructure, I had the LLC, I had all the stuff set up, the business entity with the bank. I had all of that, and I had a couple people sprinkling here and there. They would call me for, for this or for that, and it was kind of something cute, right? It was just like,
Okay.
oh, you got your own practice. That's nice. No, keep living. And I did. And then when I got into the eye literally of my storm, I said, oh God, please, you've got to help me. You've got to give me purpose. And I vividly remember, just as clear as I'm talking to you here, I remember the night, it was a night had fallen that I begged God. I literally begged him. And we barter with God, right? We do that. If you get me out of this, I'll do this. If you do this for me. But I literally begged him. I said, I cannot go through all of this for nothing. There has got to be something better.
Yeah.
And certainly I said, I'll start writing. I was always a strong writer. And I said, you know what? I'll share with the world my gifts. And I won't just use pain because there is no glory in pain. We don't worship glory or glorify pain. That's sadistic, right? But we recognize it and we say, oh, there is a guy that will get you on the other side of that. And so that's really where Pace and Associates was birthed. I said, I've got to be able to help somebody else. But if I can help two somebodies, but if I can just help one, I promise you my living will not have been in vain. And so I've gone so hard for my patients that the referrals have just come, the calls have just come, the contacts, the opportunities to share with people have just come because I know I'm called to do what I'm doing. And I had to keep living because I think it was interesting when you talk about the example with you and your brother growing up, you really didn't know to the financial constraints you were under. You had no idea.
Right.
I had no idea really how I felt like how good I had life. I was the friend who I felt like if you needed to borrow money, you could call me. If you needed me to come pick you up or keep your children for the weekend, you got me. If you needed whatever, I was just always that person that was there for a lot of people. And I just looked back and I felt like, well, not that I solicited pain or solicited adversity, but I felt like I had a really good life. Like, wow, I've been afforded a wonderful education. I come from a loving Christian home, free of abuse and violence. Like, I just felt like I would read about people. I'd hear about people. I had friends that had gone through all kinds of hell. And I was like, God, I'm not looking for trouble, but this is kind of strange how I'm living pretty good. Oh, but keep living. Keep living. 2018 turned my whole world upside down. And it took me up until that point, from childhood to that point, to really get kind of blown off my square, if you will. And I said, oh, yeah. And so then I began to question myself, like, this could be my life, not me. And I have to give credit to my dad who said, I need you to accept what has happened. This is your life. This will not be the end of it, but this is your life. And this is a part of it. So when we talk about that journey, I'm journeying through. I will never stop there, but I made a conscientious effort to choose joy. And that's what I really promote with my practice. It is a choice. Yes, depression is real. It is not some mythical, demonic illness that some people think, oh, you're filled with the devil, you're filled because you've got psychosis or you have schizophrenia. No, those are real illnesses that need to be addressed, right? But even in those illnesses, just like a physical ailment, you might have diabetes, you may have hypertension or COPD and all these other things that ail us, but that doesn't have to define you. So I chose not for depression to define me.
Right.
I said, oh no. I need to do something. Yes, I'm hurting. Yes, I'm in pain. I'm in a lot of emotional pain. Lord knows I was in an enormous amount of financial pain. And I'll talk about that later down the line. I'm going to be working on a piece to write and really be able to share with people what that really looks like to be in a financially abusive relationship. I didn't even know that was such a thing. I had no idea. Right. I'm the one that always paid bills on time, always knew the tithe, pay God, pay yourself, and then pay your bills. I knew that. I was taught that. Right. So I felt like, wait, what do you mean I don't have any? What do you mean my money is going out there? What do you mean? It was just so disturbing to me to be victimized in that way. Never was in a physically abusive relationship. Right. But certainly was in a financially abusive one. And so to have to go through what I went through, oh my goodness gracious, I'm getting teared up just thinking about it. But by the grace of God, I was able to overcome that. A lot of support around me, a lot of professional support around me, some attorneys around me. I mean, it was a lot of, I expended an enormous amount of money, and looking back, it was nobody but God that I didn't lose my mind behind that. I tell people all the time, and I say it very humbly, because being a mental health provider, we sometimes we talk loose, and people say, "Oh, that's crazy," or "That's no." Really, if it by the grace of God, you should be talking to me behind a closed window where you can only visit me 1 hour or 2 a week because I'm so heavily medicated because of what I went through. But you're not. We're able to talk freely here, and so I'm grateful for that. And so because of that freedom, I have to be able to help other people. I just have to. I don't push myself on people, but I certainly extend my services in a very professional, compassionate manner that is going to help you, because I can relate now. Yes. I'll be honest with you. I was probably, prior to 2018, I was probably more of a textbook therapist. I've read a lot of books. I've studied a lot. I've gone to a lot of webinars, seminars, you name it. I was there, right? Gotten all these continuing education units that you have to keep your license current, all this kind of stuff.
Right.
Oh, but after 2018 hit me, oh no, I'm telling you from my experience. Now we can back it up with the books, the textbooks, but I'm telling you from what I know. So that's where the epitome or the cornerstone of really of PACE was birthed.
Wow. So you talk about, I just want to highlight this for our listeners. I'm so happy that you said that people think depression is demonic. So I spend a lot of time on LinkedIn, right? I have a decent following on LinkedIn, and I was writing some pieces, and I do some posts and that type of thing. And I was scrolling, and I came across an individual who said, I don't understand these people that are claiming to suffer from depression or anxiety and call themselves Christians. And I was like, what? Why is it that I can't hurt emotionally?
Yeah.
I can't hurt mentally. I can't have an illness in that way, just like you said, and be a Christian. But I can hurt my knee, and nobody is saying, I don't believe you limping, and call yourself a Christian.
Yeah.
Well, it hurts.
Yes.
And I need help.
Yeah.
Right. And so I thank you for sharing that. Right. And I thank you for sharing that sometimes you get knocked off your square.
Oh,
even as a therapist, like I wrote in my book, like, I'm that girl. This shouldn't be happening to me.
Absolutely.
But it is.
And it keeps, and there was a season where it felt like it kept happening. I mean, I was getting, all kinds of stuff in the mail every other day. It seemed like what do you mean I've got to owe this? What do you mean I have to show up in court for this? It can be very daunting. That will put you in a state of depression, because I didn't feel like, yes, I'm a believer. I felt like there was hope, but I couldn't see it in the moment.
Yeah.
And sadly, and this is where people, when you have too many of those dark moments, that's when people want to take their own life. It's not that they don't want to be here. They want the pain to stop. And they can't see, they literally didn't see hope. And so if you put one too many of those hopeless moments together, you end up in a dark spot. It's real easy to do it. And so we have to be mindful to not be critical and judgmental of each other.
Yes. And I think it's important to share. I was talking to someone today who I talk to pretty regularly, and recently I haven't. And I got a text message to just say, hey, I'm just trying to process some things. And I'm like, you know, I'm good for giving people their space. And I'm like, I'm here. Sure. And so we talked, and she said, I just feel like I'm getting hit from every side. Like every time I look up, I feel like I'm getting hit. And I think it's important that we share our stories, because one of the things I told her was, you're not alone and you're not the only one, right? Not to commiserate pain, but to tell you, you can make it through. You can get to the other side. And I think stories like yours, you know, help people. Stories like mine, stories in general, help people, right?
Absolutely.
I find it, I had not heard that term before just now, being in a financially abusive relationship. I'd not heard that phrased that way, but yes, I have heard of what I would call financial abuses. Like I have heard of those. So I think it's really courageous of you to share that story, and also very helpful.
Sure.
To recognize, like you said, it was 9 years ago. Now you know, you're like,
well, it's
but I got through it, but it wasn't easy. Like you would take a step forward and then get a letter in the mail and be like, what in the world?
Or how can I even save money if I have to put so much of it out? You know, and I'm thinking, wait, and I think what really bothered me the most, it was expenses that I wasn't incurring on my own. Right. It'd be one thing if I was incurring, but it was, you know, it was another person was contributing to my pain financially. And it was, so that really made it even more difficult. But I think as far as, and even now, you know, there are certain triggers that I still struggle with. And I'm very apprehensive of certain things because of the past. And so I don't sugarcoat that. And I'm very cautious for, you know, I want people to heal. It's important that you heal. And I am definitely healed from it. But I'm still very much aware of that past. And so, like I said, triggers are real. There are certain things that I will hear or somebody may say or an act may happen. And I'm like, whoa, because it's, you know, post-traumatic stress is very real, and it comes in different forms. Right. And so that's another thing, really, to be educated to mental illness and what it is and what it isn't. And I think sadly, the people that are more judgmental about not mixing the spiritual with the mental is because they're ignorant of it. They're not educated enough to it. Because I guarantee you that person that's saying that has some level of anxiety. They probably just don't call it that, haven't been diagnosed to that. But if you're a human being, I guarantee you at some point in your life, you've been afraid of something. You've been anxious about something. You've been fearful of something. You've been sick to your stomach about something that was so stressful to you, right? But we're very critical of each other. And, you know, it's like the person who grew up, you know, maybe they were very promiscuous. Well, maybe the difference between her and I, or you and I, or 10 other people and I, she got caught. She had a baby to show it.
Right.
Right. But it's so again, being very cautious of how we engage with one another. That's why I'm always looking to get to know people. And once I get to know you now that I know you, I'm hopeful that I'll get to understand you. Yeah. And at some point I'll get to appreciate you, and then I'll grow to respect you. But if I don't know you, it's easy to be dismissive. Oh, get over that. What you depressed about? What? Pray about it. Don't you go to church every Sunday? I thought your father was a pastor. Aren't you a vegan? I mean, all on and so forth. People say things that are very silly. Yeah. Some people don't mean well. Some people do mean well. They just don't know what to say or what not to say. but you have to really guard yourself when you're ill. Just like when you're physically ill, you can't afford to just be out and about. A couple of weeks or so ago, I was dealing with a stomach virus. Well, I had to be very careful of what I was eating, how it was prepared, and even still now, I'm very cautious, right? But it's the same way emotionally. When you've been emotionally wounded, you have to be prepared, be very cautious of how you move forward. You don't do the same things you did. You don't just allow people in your space like you may once freely did. I don't want people to live hyper vigilant, but I want you to be alert of the things of people around you, who occupies your space, and how you occupy your mental space is so important.
Yes, I think that analogy is amazing. It takes me back to my mother has had 2 bone marrow transplants, and she has fought and won the battle against cancer twice, against multiple myeloma twice, which is now in remission. But I remember the first bout. And my mother is her faith is so strong. I remember her telling the doctors when they gave her diagnosis, and I remember her telling the doctors, "Sound like y'all got a puzzle to figure out because I got a life to live." And I was just like,
"No, that's."
And the doctors were like, like, this is serious. She was like, "Yep," and I know whose I am.
That's right.
So y'all got some work to do, right? Yes. But when she had her transplant, anybody that knows anything about a transplant, they knock your immune system out. Yeah. And so she did not have an immune system at all. And then they do the transplant, and then they build your immune system back up. And so it's very important that she not be around a ton of germs.
Yeah. Right.
So it was written, in the post-op instructions that she couldn't be around people who had just had live vaccines and things like that. I remember us posting on the doors of the house, like, thank you so much for coming to visit. We truly appreciate you, but she cannot, she can't have visitors. Out of care for her health,
that
you call or talk to her that way. Something like that was on the door. Right? All the doors of the house, and then we kept most people out. Like if you were not her husband, my dad was still alive then. If you were her husband, one of her children, and some of her grandchildren, because at the time, some of the grandchildren were younger,
school age.
So we kept them out. And so I think that is such a powerful analogy when you're going through. Sometimes you got to keep people away because you can't afford to have that germ in your healing.
That's right.
Wow, I hadn't thought about it that way. That's amazing. So Pace and Associates, and then tell us how the anthology project happened.
Yeah, so I was invited into that project with a bunch of about 12 of us in total. Put some of our life stories together. Just really a snippet. Didn't really have time to go into all the details because of so many different authors, but it was just to give people a way to relate to different stories, different situations. We all come from different walks of life, different paths, or what have you. And so even if we had the same story, we came from a different angle, right? I'm not the first person that went through a divorce. I'm not the first person that was evicted from a house. I'm not the first that. I'm not a trailblazer in that regard. I'm a trailblazer for me because it was the first time for me, right? Yeah. So my angle is going to be uniquely different from somebody else's because it was just that. It was my story. So I was invited into that. And what I discovered in that, and this kind of goes back to being able to be further along in your healing, and you'll know it. You may say, well, it's very similar to physical recovery. If you've injured your leg or your arm and you go to physical therapy or whatever, if they can weight bear or, you have a range of motion that's higher than others, you'll know the healing. Emotionally, It's different. We have different tools to measure that, but it's really from the inside out, right? If you can't get through the story without breaking down completely, you probably are not completely healed from that. If you're, if you are still, it causes an impediment to your day-to-day activity, you're probably not healed from that. Right. And so those are just small things, but that's one of the avenues that I was given the opportunity, like say, to share. And it really opened some other doors for me to meet a lot of different women in different places across this country, really, and have established some really great friendships. One of my, two of my good friends actually are co-authors in the book. One we went in together knowing each other, and another one we met after the project and have become very close. And so I think the last I was with you, we were talking really heavily about community. So that's really a part of my community, being able to bond with people. Again, not that we glorify in a pain pool. That's not cool, but we're able to really encourage each other and push each other to say, yep, go on out there a little further to help more people who don't have the network of friends, don't have the strong knit family that I had, or maybe you have, Dr. Ebony, to support you. It's for that woman, it's for that young woman or older woman who really feels by themselves. And so that was the why I chose to participate in that.
Yes. So I want to, I was moving around here trying to grab the book. I want to call the book out, show everybody, here's the book. We'll link it down below. It's called Fearless Women Rock, Courageous Women Find Strength During the Storm, Volume 2. And here's your beautiful picture.
Well, thank you.
Yes.
Thank you very much. I want to just give a shout out to Dr. Missy Johnson, who was the brainchild behind that project and has launched many other volumes. She is actually a 3-time cancer survivor herself, and has an amazing story. Really flirted with death multiple times, and so her whole quest is to bring women together, to be fearless, to stand up together, to push through your adversity. So I commend her for the work that she has done and continues to do, and gave me, like I said, along with a number of other women, an opportunity to share. And it's really birthed. Some women have launched other podcasts, they've launched other books, they've launched radio appearances, television appearances. They've gone on to do webinars and seminars, just whatever. And it's not that we didn't have the skill to do it. I just think a lot of times you don't feel like you have the purpose to do it. And so now when you have that purpose that matches your pain, oh boy, you're fearless.
Yes, that's amazing. So I've got just a couple more questions for you. The first is, I also would like for you to just share advice, if you have any, for someone who finds themselves in the midst of financial abuse. What would be your advice to her, or them in general, but specifically our audience is mostly women?
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, I think initially, once you discover that's what actually it is, and you may not call it that at first. You may just think, oh, I'm loaning money to somebody, particularly if it's your spouse or family member or friend or neighbor. You don't think of it as an issue, right? You especially if you are financially comfortable, you don't really initially, if I give you $20, I'm not going to really miss that, right? But if I continue to do that because you keep asking me, and 20 turns into 200 and 200 turns into 2,000, and it's all by it's almost like a form of manipulation, where it's like, because you've basically fallen in love with this person, or you have a affinity to this person, so you don't think anything really of it, until you look up one day and you're like, wait, what does my bank account say? What's the say? Wait, what's going on? And I think the other piece of it is when you realize that the money that was given, there was not a lot to show for it. Right. That was the burning piece for me. It was like, okay, I don't have a problem really giving you or gifting you this, but what's the byproduct of it? I don't see the results. Right. And so I'm truly not getting an investment on my return here. I'm not getting a return here on my investment, rather. I'm not seeing that. So I think as far as the advice I would give you is, once you discover that's what's happening, and maybe don't wait as long as I did, right? Maybe maybe ask questions a lot sooner. That was one of the things I talk about in the book, is really ask questions and say, hey, I noticed you ask me very frequently or often for money or whatever, but and I don't ultimately have a problem giving it to you, but I am concerned of the excessiveness or the frequency of it, and I don't see the fruit of it. So I would ask questions. I think once you realize, if you've gotten, like I said, if you're in a posture where you are being financially abused, is really to seek professional guidance. I had to seek an attorney. I am not ashamed to say, and I think I'll say it in this platform, haven't really gone public with this yet, but was planning to. But I thank you, Dr. Ebony, for giving me a safe space to do that. But I actually had to file bankruptcy for that. And you couldn't have paid me, no pun intended, to ever thought in a million years that I was going to be in a position where I was going to have to file, but was. And it almost wrecked me mentally because I felt like it was because of another person's doing. And in order for me to get out of that kind of debt and get ahead, trust me, I looked at so many different ways to avoid that. One of my best friends, my childhood friend, is a CPA by profession who is a president of a bank. And she said, Beth, if you can avoid it, don't do it. People, they're going to be in your business. They're going to be watching your every dollar. They're going to be, every time you want to purchase something, you got to check in. You're going to have to go to court, on and so forth. And I mean, she's very sound, very solid in her own skill set. But even after speaking with her at great length and speaking to some other attorneys, that was a choice I had to make. I chose to make that. And I don't have any regrets that I made that. It helped me to restructure. It wasn't that I got out of debt, because there's different forms of bankruptcy. So I didn't get off with a clean slate because I made too much money. I was in a financial posture where I made too much. So I had to go a different route with it. But once I did that, it was more of a restructuring, even though it looked like y'all are just taking my money. Well, they were helping me to restructure to pay off the debt, to still be able to live. And so 5 years of my life was caught up in that, because that's how long it took. I'm telling you, I felt like I was in hell for those 5 years.
Wow.
But by the grace of God, I was able to persevere through that. And I just asked God to increase my tithe. I said, Lord, I don't know how much of this is coming out. I mean, they're taking it directly out of my check. I have no choice. I can't say, well, I'm going to pay you this, or I'm not going to pay. No, because at the end of this cycle, I want this to all be done. I want this to be closed out, moved on, and be a thing of my past. And it certainly is. By about year 3 of 5 years, I finally accepted where I was with it. It took me that long to accept that. I struggled. I got angry a lot. I was had a lot of inner turmoil that I didn't let on to other people. But I was in a battle with myself, because there was no way, like I said, there was no way you're going to tell me this happened to me, but it did. Yeah. And the other thing I asked God for, it was to not allow me to become bitter behind that. Yeah. And so my really slogan for myself after I came out of that, and I don't really broadcast it a lot, it was just my own personal slogan, but I'm happy to share it here, was not a bitter Beth, a better Beth.
Yes. Not a bitter Beth, a better Beth. I like that.
Yeah. So I was much better for that, because it really, not so much show me who the person was. I wasn't so much interested after that. You hurt me, so I don't need to figure that out. It was just, wow. But my faith is just that deeper, right? My trust, my belief in God is that much stronger. My ability and my compassion to want to help other people avoid those situations, or if you find yourself in that situation, I'll walk with you, my sister. I'll walk with you, my brother, because that's painful. But I'm a living witness to tell you, you can overcome that. You will overcome that. Do not do anything to the extreme. I mean, I feared everything. They're going to garnish my wages. They're going to come after my assets, all that kind of stuff. But I have a very dear friend of mine who is an attorney and literally walked me through every step of the way. And I mean, I had a couple of panic attacks with her, and walked with me the entire process all the way up through the end. But so again, knowing your circle, knowing your audience, knowing who you're talking to, those were very personal matters. But I understood I had to really vet out who was around me, because I felt I'm already kind of being taken advantage of, so I can't afford any more, right? And so really asking God to give me discernment of who I chose to help me through that process, and He did just that, because that's what He is, faithful.
Yes, and look at you now.
Yes, yep. So hang in there for those of you who are struggling financially, whether it's based on your own doing or the actions of somebody else. There's help, and you can restructure yourself, and you can move beyond that. What's one thing about money? If you structure it right, you can make more. If you save it, put it away, you'll have some, right? That's the only commodity that you can get more of. Other than that, everything else is for naught. But money, you might go broke, but you can make some more.
You can make some more. Yep. It'll be.
Yeah.
Yes. I thank you for feeling safe enough to share that here, because I'm sure that somebody listening needed to hear that because he or she is trying to figure that out.
Absolutely.
Right? That position and trying to figure that out. So thank you for sharing.
You're welcome.
So I know we've been talking for a while. I'm going to wrap us up here with just 2 more questions.
Sure.
And I'll go to you both at the same time.
Okay.
First question is, I know just because of the last time when you were on the panel that somebody is going to say to me, how do I get in touch with Beth?
Yeah.
How do I follow Beth? What do I do? So tell us how what's next for you and how we get in touch with you. Yeah. And then the question I ask all my audience is, if somebody decides to make a movie of your life, what do you think it should be called and who should play you?
Wow, those are pretty amazing questions. So let me start with the first one, the contact. If you want to contact me, if you need additional support or if I can help you professionally, happy to do that. Several ways you can reach out to me on my website, www.paceandassociates.com. That's all one word, www.paceandassociates.com. Or you can call the office. You can call the office there and ask to speak with me and schedule an appointment if you so choose. That's area code 248-702-4145. Again, that's 248-702-4145. And I do offer both in-person and telehealth appointments. So if you're interested, I even work with people that are across state lines because of distance or work schedules or what have you. If you prefer to be in the comfort of your own home, that's fine, or your office. I do that as well. I certainly have in-person availability if you want to be seen in the office. So that's another way. You can follow me on social media. We won't discuss clinical personal matters on social media, but it's just a way to follow me to let you know that I am a real person. I'm a human being. And so I want you to feel comfortable doing that. You can just find me at Beth Baker Callen on Facebook or Beth L. Baker, either one on Facebook or on Instagram. All those social, those handles. I think the other question you asked me, if I were to name a movie, if a movie was made.
If someone was making a movie about your life, what would it be called? And who should play you? Who should play Beth?
Sure. One of the things that I guess the name of the movie, it would be entitled "These Things I Know." And keep hold of that, because there'll be more to come with that a little bit later. But "These Things I Know" would be the name of the movie, because there's some things in life that I know without a shadow of a doubt. Right? There's been some things that I wasn't aware of, some things that kind of blindsided me, but there's some things about me that now I know without a shadow of a doubt. Right? I know that God is faithful. I know that I am fearfully and wonderfully made, even in the spaces of adversity. I know that I'm loved, and I know that I'm appreciated. And so sometimes when you go through hardships, you forget that. You don't even feel like you have purpose. So "These Things I Know" would be the name of the movie. And I would ask Angela Bassett to play me. I have a lot of respect for her. She is a woman of faith herself, but I think a woman of boldness, of confidence, but yet with humility, right? She's skilled at her craft. She's an actress, I think, by profession, and certainly is skilled. We've seen her in a lot of different movies and pieces or whatever. But I think the biggest thing that I like, so many different things I could go on about her, but one of the things that she strikes me as being a woman of integrity, which is really important. So if she were to play me in my life, I try to carry myself with integrity. I think that's important. Basically, it's what are you doing when people are not watching you? What are you saying when people are not looking or listening? That's really the speaks to the integrity of a person. So I would want Miss Bassett to play me if I were to go before the big screen.
Yes, I love it. And "These Things I Know." Miss Angela Bassett, one day it might be coming your way. I want to see you as Beth Baker Callen. Listen, Beth, it's been amazing chatting with you today for a couple of reasons. Just to hear your story and to be able to get it out there, but also it's always amazing to me to be able to talk to people that you knew as a child and now you're an adult,
Yes.
and to see just what God has done in their lives. And so I'm thankful to be able to see that and to connect with you in that way. So for all my listeners out there, listen, if you need help from Beth or if you need a recommendation from Beth, I'm sure she will give you one. We will link all of her information down below. We will also link the book down below if you're interested in reading her book. And follow us because we will keep you up to date with what's going on, and connect you to all of the things that Beth has coming in the future. And so remember, as Beth said, in these things, I know. Until next time, keep spreading that Black girl magic on everything you do. We'll see you in a couple weeks. Thanks, Beth.
Thank you.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you for spending time with me today. If this episode spoke to you, share it with another Black woman who needs this reminder. And don't forget to subscribe. You'll find links to my book, apparel, and speaking information in the show notes. Until next time, lead with intention and give yourself permission to pause. And you know what else? Keep spreading that Black girl magic on everything you do.